Is the opposition spokesman for communications and broadband. He joins us now from Canberra. Mr Turnbull, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Are you pleased with the speed of the minister's response here?
Well, I'm pleased that they're having the meeting, but this issue has been around for a while. We've raised it some time ago. I think the government's playing catch-up to some extent, but let's not... I don't want to be critical about that, other than to say the asbestos issue has been well known both to Telstra and to NBN Co, and that both companies should have paid much closer attention to it. And it underlines a point that we've been making for some time, that the way the NBN is being constructed is very complex, very time-consuming, very expensive, and of course now we see has these added risks associated with dealing with asbestos in the old infrastructure.
Who do you believe is more responsible here? Is it Telstra or NBN Co?
Well, I think there's plenty of blame to share around. It's Telstra's job to remediate these pits and pipes, that is to say, to get them into a state where they can be used to pull fibre through. But if they need to be expanded, that is the job of the NBN Co. That's what's called augmentation. So both contractors for both Telstra and NBN Co have been working with this old infrastructure and disturbing it, and each side was well aware, at least at a management level, that asbestos was a big issue, and there clearly was inadequate supervision. So I think NBN Co can't just say this is all Telstra's problem. All of this work is being done for and on behalf and for the benefit of the NBN Co, which of course is a wholly owned subsidiary of the federal government. So, you know, ultimately the buck stops with the government and the minister, but at a management level, both NBN Co and Telstra could have done a much better job.
Would you support the setting up of a compensation fund for people exposed to asbestos?
Well, that's a good question. I think that Telstra has got more than sufficient resources to meet any damages claims, but so I'm not. This isn't Telstra's not a company that's likely to go broke or go out of business anytime soon, or ever, in all probability. So, but it may. I think it would certainly provide some level of reassurance to people who feel they may have been exposed. So Telstra may choose to do so as much as anything out of a community relations point of view. But I don't have an anxiety that Telstra is about to do a James Hardie and you know, move its place of business to Europe or anything like that.
So if called upon, you believe it would be the right thing to do for Telstra to set up a fund?
Well, you're putting words in my mouth. I don't think it's necessary from a financial point of view or a legal point of view, but I think Telstra should consider whether it wouldn't be a good thing to do from a community relations point of view. It's clearly got some confidence to rebuild in the community. You know, this is a very, very nasty shock for residents in areas that have been affected by this, and it's not just limited to Western Sydney. There have been incidents in other parts of Australia as well.
Is this another pink bats episode for the Gillard government?
Well, I think that there is a resonance there. It's different. I'm not trying to suggest the two are equivalent, but there is a resonance there. Again, it's a big project that the government has boosted and boasted about. They've used it in a very political way. We know they didn't do their homework on the NBN Co. They didn't do a cost-benefit analysis. I mean, one of the arguments in favour of the more cost-effective approach that we're proposing is that you don't disturb that legacy infrastructure, which of course saves you a lot of time and money, and also means you don't have to deal with this issue of disturbing or breaking up or reconstructing old infrastructure with asbestos in it. You leave it there. You leave it in the ground. Now, you know, this is one of the reasons why the approach we've talked about, fibre to the node, is one that telcos around the world are adopting because it is more cost effective and you have less of these issues. Now, these are all matters that could and should have been analysed in a rigorous cost-benefit analysis, but where there is a similarity with pink bats, and I don't want to push the analogy too far, but where there is a similarity It is a classic case of the Labor government not doing its homework first. There is a sense that of mismanagement or lack of management and lack of a failure to work through all of these issues carefully and take them all into account before you weigh up what course of action you take.
Now, by legacy infrastructure, you're talking about the pits, obviously, but you'd be disturbing your fair share of pits as well under the Coalition's broadband rollout, only that you'd simply stop at street corners under your plan.
No, the pits are by and large overwhelmingly beyond the pillars in the streets, you know, the distribution points. So the infrastructure that you're seeing being disturbed in Penrith, for example, is infrastructure that wouldn't be disturbed under our plan. So there's just a lot. The whole argument in favour of Michael of fibre to the node is that there is much less civil works. So
but you'd be digging up pits. You know, there may be a smaller number under that argument, but you'd be digging up pits.
Michael, I don't want to be rude or contradict you unnecessarily, but the answer is you would not be digging up pits. You see, the reason why they are digging up pits is because a lot of the pits that were built to take the copper infrastructure are too small to accommodate the fibre. And so this is one of the reasons why ducts too are having to be replaced. So there's a lot more infrastructure replacement. And they've got to remediate it and replace it. The virtue of fibre to the node is that all of that infrastructure running under streets, you know, some of which has fibre, you know, fibre cement in it and so forth, is basically left as it is, and you use that last 400, 500, 600, 700 metres of copper infrastructure. You continue to use that. You don't have to disturb it. That's where the big cost saving comes in, but you can nonetheless achieve very high speeds and much higher indeed than people need or will pay for in a residential environment. OK, just moving on to another issue. You're teaming up with Wayne Swan this morning to attempt to revive the Republican cause. You, of course, were back in 1999 Mr. Republic. What makes you think there's passion still in the community for Australia to transfer to a republic model? Well, I think there's always passion in the community for a republic, but I wouldn't say it's at the very height of passion at the moment. These issues all have a sense of timing about it, and that's why I've said, I said in 1999, you know, if you vote no, it'll mean no for a very long time. And you may remember there were people, both monarchists and particularly the people who favoured a different Republican model, who said, oh no, just vote no and you'll get another crack at it in a few years' time. Well, that was always a lie, bluntly. Now, I don't think this is not a first order issue today, but I think it's always good to talk about the Constitution. My own sense is, and I hope I'm wrong, but this is my own sense, and I do have a distinguished qualification in not winning referendums, so I'm quite experienced. My own sense is that the best time to have another referendum, if we are to have one, and I hope we do, is after the end of the Queen's reign. But there is useful work that can be done in terms of public engagement, in terms of the type of model you're going to propose. So I welcome the publication of this book, but do I think it's going to distract us from the other issues of the day? No, I don't. Well, once bitten, twice shy. If we were to see a referendum in the short to medium term future, would you favour the direct election model this time around? Well, I would favour direct election only if I was really confident that all Australians understood its implications. As I've said in the foreword I've written to this book, one of the things we have to be very clear-eyed about is this, that the argument against direct election is that you have a directly elected president who is supposed to be, like the Governor-General, a ceremonial, non-partisan, constitutional figurehead. Once you directly elect that person, that is then the only national public office directly elected by the people of Australia. And that person has a very big bully pulpit, regardless of how their powers may be circumscribed in the Constitution. Now, that is inevitably going to produce some form of tension. Now, as long as Australians understand that, and if they still support it, then I've got no doubt it can be made to work. But, the truth is, Michael, that our experience has been that once people recognise that by directly electing the president, you're going to have a highly partisan political process to choose what should be a non-partisan, non-political office holder. Many of them, most of them, change their mind, and that's why. And I described that in the foreword to this book. But that was our experience right through the Republican campaign. So direct election could be a bit of a trap for the Republicans. It could start off very popular, and then as people just start to make those simple points I've just made then, others will say, well, do we really want to create the potential for instability? That's why, the argument in '99 was that if your job description for your head of state is someone to be non-political, non-partisan, essentially a ceremonial figurehead with some constitutional responsibilities, if that's your role, then shouldn't you choose that person in a bipartisan fashion so that the office holder is seen by the public as having the broadest possible political support? So that's the, that's the argument, and I've suggested some ways in which the public engagement can be done, I think, creatively and effectively via the internet. We've got a lot of tools, many more tools for public engagement today than we did in 1999.
OK, we'll look forward to seeing that Unity ticket later today with Wayne Swan. Malcolm Turnbull, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.